Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It really helps the channel out. We're absolutely clocking them out. Finals content, we've got draft content, we've got trade content, we've got the full shebang here. So if you aren't a Carlton fan, there is loads of you to lap up, plus to see the highs and lows of probably a team you hate if you're not a Carlton fan. I am a pretty good guy. I do have a crack, have a bit of a laugh with you all. And we are fully engaged here. If you are a Carlton fan, obviously you know me. So make sure you hit the like button. And if you want to go a step further, become a member in the channel. We'll be doing something extra special this weekend for the members because we got the week off. So I've got some special guests and we're going to get real juicy weekend. But let's get into it. Carlton lose 32 points to GWS in the final round of the AFL competition. It wasn't the performance we wanted to go out with. But that being said, let's discuss it pragmatic as we always do and get a bit excited because it's a long time. I've not done content in a final for my own team. So I'm a wee bit excited. So we'll try and be as full on as we can. But obviously, Carlton and GWS, they came out of the blocks. It was a real heavily contested game. And up to half-time, the game was fairly even. Carlton had the ascension around some of the key pressure indicators. And it looked like we were in for a ripper. Obviously, at this stage, by half-time, Carlton went in 5 points behind. Having taken the lead in the first quarter, they will probably have felt they were the better side for large parts of the second quarter. They just couldn't get the scoreboard nourishment, particularly in that middle half of the second quarter. And then we really did see by about halfway through, just about when Akers went off, you could see the pressure indicators massively went down. When you watch the show tonight, the rating show, you actually see on the heat maps massive changes there, particularly with certain players who we will cover in this game as well of what they were about. And I genuinely got the impression for the last hour of that game, let's say, let's be fair, 45 minutes, I do feel that there was a mindset there from the boys of the job's done, try not to get hurt. Now, do I agree with that? Of course I fucking do. If we left that game with 3 or 4 injuries, heaven forbid, touch wood, touch your bonds, touch the ears, touch your noses. If Kerno, Whittaker, McGovern, whoever you name had gone down because we were trying to chase the game and the effort indicators would have been like the Gold Coast game in the third quarter, I'd be doing this video with a different mindset. But it was definitely, there was a change of tact. And fair play to GWS, not taking anything away from him. They had to win to get in finals. They did what they did. But for me, for Carlton, there was really, the only thing that could have gone wrong was you can overcommit. You overcommit in a game where win, lose, or draw, you're the same position. For Carlton, it was a different mindset. It would have been interesting to see that game had results gone another way and Carlton had to win to stay fifth. I think you would have seen a different output, to be honest. And in all honesty, I have a genuinely good feeling when we lose about what's going to happen. I didn't see anything here that didn't say a team was trying not to win. And you could see there was a risk. It was going to come at a risk because GWS are an incredibly good side, to be fair. 1.17 kick to handball ratio. Carlton really did use the handball this week. Protecting the hammies, some would say. It was an interesting one. They did try and run the ball a lot. So that's obviously going to be something that's been worked off. Interesting enough, Carlton created the most forward 50 turnover opportunities this week than they have done for 4 weeks. So that would allude that the turnover game is in the mindset. Particularly that's something that's probably fallen off over the last 3 weeks, even though we've won so many games. That's an interesting little thing. The tackles a little bit below par. You're going to Essendon numbers there. 11 inside 50 tackles, though. There was a real onus on that forward 50 pressure, which is a good thing because that's going to be needed in finals, particularly when teams, genuinely speaking, have a lot more score launches from that back half of the ground in a final. So that's a mindset there. The rebound 50 rate oscillating where you'd usually think. The mark inside 50 rate really down. Carlton's entries this week were really shallow. There wasn't, I'm not too sure why that is, because the pressure indicators from GWS weren't astronomical in and around the ball, which is what would be indicative of that comes round. Definitely, though, there were shallow options. They weren't trying to get that second kick. Martin and Cunners weren't as poignant in these areas. Could be personnel as well. It'll definitely have an aspect that Dow, Walsh and Chera, the guys that genuinely look for these short hit-up leads, were more hemmed in on the ball. So that is a personnel. We do know that Doc and Cripps genuinely are the main breadwinners with Hewitt in the clutches. And this week we had a lot more caveat players playing that role. The contested possession differential, though, as you would expect, Carlton's bread and butter. The clearance differential, maybe a bit of a concern here. The conversion, though, rate in the AFL norm, the goal generation was disappointing. The TPI rate really showing that the pressure indicators weren't there. We talked about GWS were tipped to win this game with Cripps out by a goal. And that would be if everyone played at 100%. You take that into account. Pretty fair result, really. 5 goals. All in all, they got a run out, some valuable minutes in the legs of Chera and Walsh, which shouldn't be understated that Chera, Walsh, Durden, McGovern got a full game under their belt, which is good going into 2 weeks in the final. So 10 days, isn't it? 10 and a bit days. So all in all, not a great performance. Very lethargic that last quarter, particularly. You could see the boys wanted to go home, and fair play to them. But let's end on a positive before we lay into them. They've made finals. They did their job way before that game, and this is a difference to last year. I rewatched my video and I said that in round 23 last year. Don't say it's over. It's the beginning. And what a massive turnaround. They came in with the job done by bounce. So fair play to them. And now the real work begins. That you've had 23 rounds of feeling your way into the comp. You've gone from bottom 4 to top 5, which is insane in 10 weeks. Now the real shit starts against Sydney. So let's look at some players. We talked about Mitch a bit. And old Mitchy, it was an interesting game for him because the meters gained was insane. He was one of the few that was looking to kick. And he attacked the ball well with the 7 intercept possessions, the 2 intercept marks. You can still see, though, that there was a few that he hadn't fully got the rhythm, so he'll be better off for this game. And Mitch McGovern is generally that rhythm-type player. The second, third game back of a string, because we've had a lot of evidence, is usually where he starts to hit his straps, and that's usually when he gets injured, isn't it? But 50% one-on-one ratio, he did get caught out in one of them things, but, I mean, there it is. Pleasing to me that he was working hard below the deck, which is always something that I look for with Mitch McGovern, purely because of his injuries. And it's good to see he trusts his body. He worked hard there. And all in all, not a fantastic game, but not a shocking game either. It was a nice little game for him to come back. And we'll talk about this man. TDK's really impressed me over the last weeks. Carlton are 8-0 with Pitternet and TDK for those playing along at home. So that could be interesting. 67 ruck contests there. 50, just under 51%. He won of them. 17.6 hit outs to advantage, which, as we know, hit outs to advantage don't really help Carlton, but the wins do. 7 ground ball gets, again, really working hard below his ground. 2 marks. I'd like to see them get up. I'd like to see him lead. That was particularly something GWS did really well in the middle of the ground. Their taller players, their ruckman, whoever was oscillating there, really worked hard to create an extra option there. And I felt like that was a trick that we missed, particularly through the corridor and defending that and being hit over the top. I would have liked to have seen him deployed more centrally. The 3 tackles and the 6 clearances, 2 score launches, him doing what he needs to from them stoppage clearances, and 3 intercept possessions. And this is where I'd like to see him be utilised a little bit more defensively. Interesting. I find his work around the ground less noticeable when Pitternet's not there, which should be the opposite, really. I don't know if that's because you've got that comparison of Pitt, which, no disrespect to him, it's not his game, is it? It's not his strength, but I liked what he did, TDK. I liked it. The solo ruckman is going to be a really interesting one for mine moving forward, just because you don't know what's going to happen with it. Because I don't think the Harry experiment worked at all. The return of the boys coming up, but Brodie Kemp will stay on the back line. I liked his able work, and he played a little bit more loose, and you could see that they'd given McGovern more of the key role. 6 marks, 3 intercept marks, 3 contested marks, proving that point. 8 intercept possessions, the 5 spoils. Again, going with what he knows here. Kemp has had the license to be attacking. This week, he was more in that responsible role of really attacking the football as opposed to the player. Decent kicking efficiency, again, good ground ball gets, and retained the possession well. He did what he had to do, and I really like Brodie Kemp's year. I've been really, really impressed with it. And he's Messer here, probably one of the best on ground. Hopefully, there's no charges there because that will be ridiculous. But 7 marks, 5 intercept marks, 2 contested marks. Only lost 1 of his one-on-ones this week. 13 intercept possessions, a staggering 23.7 meters. And this is one here that is impressive. But there was a few short options there, and Carlton really put themselves under pressure here in these areas, and that was for the running in front of him. That was really lethargic this week, and very interesting numbers there. Where he is usually with kicking efficiency, the ground ball gets, again, he did what he needed to do, and Whittaker just continuing to do Whittaker things. Charlie Kerner, he held the Coleman, and pretty much the energy of the Coleman was sapped out of the ground, but 80% one-on-ones, doing what he had to do, bringing it to ground pretty well. The 6 marks. Interestingly, no marks on the lead this week from Charlie, which is a surprise. It's something that we do see him do quite a bit, but he really played really deep this week, which I thought was really interesting. It's not something that we associate with Charlie coming up the ground, and I kind of liked it, but I didn't. I thought there was a real opportunity this week to give Mr. Mackay get really deep, and I felt like we missed a trick, to be honest, but it is what it is. 3 goals, no behinds. He had 1 kick out of bounds on the full, 5 pressure acts. They're starting to creep up, 60% accuracy. Charlie proving he's the best in the business. Had a fairly easy day, to be honest. He did his work and he checked out pretty quickly. Let's go to the midfield core. They had to work overtime without their captain. And Paddy Dow, again, 21 touches this week, 9 of them contested. 3 tackles, 3 score launches, really generating a lot of opportunity, Carlton, from Ram stoppages with his directness. Really played a more offensive role this week. It was George Hewitt, interesting enough, real low, nearly 13% contested possessions. In a game you would expect him to do it, Voss deliberately kept him away from it and made the other 3 go in hard, which is a very interesting ploy, because obviously in finals, they're going to target Hewitt and Cripps, particularly when they're trying to get the ball out, and that's Carlton's strength. It was interesting to see Voss deploy another one, and Paddy Dow really excelled in this position. Got the ball inside 54 times, 8 clearances, the Carlton's best clearance player, 16.2 meters, where he usually blazes away. We saw him being a bit more intricate in what he was doing this week, which is interesting. He didn't go for the massive long option, which we're familiar with him. He did try and thread these balls and bring them in, particularly with the handball as well. He really tried to bring them players in, which shows a little bit of maturity, especially someone who's probably, in all fairness, playing for his future. 62% disposal efficiency. People will criticize it, but I mean, at the end of the day, he plays a risk-reward game. 27 pressure acts, though. He was really strong defensively. 8 ground ball gets and 8 scale involvements. He was involved in the majority of Carlton's play, making them chains happen. Another good game. And the return of our boys, Walshy, 13 contested possessions. He had to bear a lot of the work, which was interesting enough. 4 tackles, 1 score launch, 2 rebound 50s and 6 inside 50s. The 6 clearances, covered a lot of ground for someone that hasn't played for a couple of weeks. It was a delight to see him. The 25 pressure acts and the 9 ground ball gets. And again, the score involvements were pretty tasty for Sammy Walsh. He'll be better for the Cobweb game, and it wasn't a bad game at all. He really did put in a shift and probably around his averages for everything, which is what you expect. And his mate, Adam Cerra, 9 contested possessions, 5 tackles. Arguably, you saw why we miss Adam Cerra this week. His tackling particularly and his defensive work is insane. The 5 inside 50s and the 6 clearances. And really look to bring players in. It'll be interesting when Cripps comes back because we've definitely missed having 2 of these players that look to feed. And that was interesting. I thought Cerra did well. I really did enjoy Cerra's game, particularly around the ball as well. He made himself available in the short options, which weren't interestingly taken this week. No one looked for that give and go in contested work. They tried to stay out of it, which was really poignant in all the numbers. There wasn't the contested work that we expect to see from the same players. So obviously there was a little bit of bruise-free footy occurring, which you can't blame them. But all in all, a solid return. It wasn't the game we wanted. We wanted to end on 10 in a row, but 9 out of 10, I would take a 90% win-loss all the time, to be honest. Finals bound, 5th in the league. Get excited, people. The boys will need you in 10 days' time as we host the runners-up from last year, which will be entertaining. The Swans are coming, and so are the Bloody Blues. So get around them. Thank you very much for your love and support. Please make sure you like and subscribe and stay invested. We're going to absolutely churn the content. I've got some exciting things in the works for you this year. Can't wait. Thank you so much for your love and support. Honestly, been a wonderful year, and it's just beginning. Love to you all. Palm out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.